Welcome to What's Up in Jeju, where I visit places around the island and talk about what's happening with hashtag Daily K's host, Peter Bint.
Where are you taking us in Jeju? Please don't say the Songak museum or something.
No, now wow, I'm so sweaty.
It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So for the past while, we've been doing a lot of traveling back in time, right, to study Jeju's history, traditions, all of that.
Yeah.
But in today's show, we'll be staying right here in the present to talk about current issues. And while doing so, maybe even talk about the future a little bit. Because this past week, Jeju Island hosted the 18th Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity. And we'll be talking about what the forum is, what it aims to do. The forum is actually hosted by the provincial government here, along with the International Peace Foundation and the East Asia Foundation, which are all, I believe, Korean organizations. But there were also some really, really big sponsors that backed the event, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the National Assembly, and as well as JDC, who is also the sponsor of our corner, What's Up in Jeju. So on the show, right, we do these short video clips to give you all a peek into what's up in Jeju. And for today's show, we're going to start it off with a bang. Our first clip is of none other than former Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, who was a speaker at the event. And in the clip, he tells us a little bit about what the Jeju Peace Forum is all about.
Well, definitely starting off with a Ban Ki-moon. Yes, here we go.
Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity is one of many symbolic events which this land can offer. Jeju Forum was launched in 2001 as a dynamic platform for timely dialogue that not only shares vision of peace on the Korean Peninsula in East Asia and the world, but also seeks creative solutions through international cooperation.
Wow, yeah, I don't think we've had such a big hitter as former UN Secretary General on What's Up in Jeju. Did you take that video yourself, Adrian?
Yeah, I was right there in the back of the room. It was amazing.
Yeah, and he's there in the flesh because we can see him very clearly on the screen, but as we can see from this photo, he was at the event speaking in person.
Yes, I was very far. We couldn't see him very well, but it was just amazing to be there to hear him speak live.
Yeah, that's amazing. So talking about it starting way back in 2001?
Right, yeah. So that was when this forum was first launched back then. And it's a platform for dialogue between countries, specifically in the Indo-Pacific region. But this year's forum, every year they have a theme. And this year was working together for sustainable peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. So it's very specific to that region. And the type of dialogue that takes place deals specifically with peace, climate change, and cooperation between countries on how to actively tackle major issues that affect the world today, the region, but also the world. And to quote them, the organizers, they say, this is their quote, amid deepening security threats in the Indo-Pacific, the region will need to enhance cooperation and identify opportunities to achieve sustainable peace and prosperity. This year's forum will bring together leaders and experts from government, business, and civil society to collaborate and provide solutions to address multiple crises in the region. So it's long, but it kind of tells you what they do.
Yeah, and I guess maybe even here in Korea, maybe our listeners will think, well, it's a peaceful area, what's there to worry about? But there are conflicts that flare up and a lot of tensions with many countries here, and we've got to always be mindful of North Korea as well.
Right.
Technically still being at war and whatnot. So this seems like a pertinent thing that's been going on for a good long while. When did this one take place, Angel? Recently?
Yeah, just last week. I went last week to cover the Peace Forum.
Oh, nice. And Benny's saying, yeah, I saw the Arirang news team on the TV side covering that well as well. Yeah, of course, it's going to be a big event. And
Right.
with Pan Ki-moon speaking, amongst other global figures,
Yes,
it seems. It
yes.
must have got a lot of limelight. That brings us back to part 2 of What's Up in Jeju with Angel on the line, and we are taking a deep dive into the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity. And we just saw in part 1 the clip from Pan Ki-moon, former UN Secretary General. Where are we going to pick up from, Angel?
Okay, so we'll be kicking off part 2 straight away with another video clip. This one is also of Mr. Pan Ki-moon, not just because he's my bias, but because what he said was really, really significant. In it, he goes over a couple of really powerful statistics about the Indo-Pacific region that really blew me away. So that's what this is.
Here's the clip.
This year's Jeju Forum theme for working together for sustainable peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific cannot be more timely or relevant. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all are well aware, the Indo-Pacific region is the most vibrant and dynamic in the global economy, as its population corresponds to 65% of the world, and its economic output accounts for 60% of the world.
Wow.
Yes.
Did he say the population is 65% of the global population?
Yes. Isn't that incredible?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what he was saying.
It's huge.
Yeah, 65% of the world's population lives in this region, what they call the Indo-Pacific region. Not only that, but this region also makes up over 60% of the global economy. And by the way, it wasn't mentioned in the video, but more than half of the world's maritime trade also takes place here.
Oh, an extra bonus statistic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angel. And yeah, when you say Indo-Pacific region,
Yeah,
I don't know exactly where we're talking about, but I'm guessing that's covering India as well as this more traditional, perhaps Southeast Asian area.
Yeah, you're not the only one, Peter. When I went, I went without doing my homework first, which you shouldn't do when you're going to an event like this. So I was so lost, and I came home. I was like, what was he talking about? What was everybody talking about? And so what the Indo-Pacific region is it's an area. Do we have the image up on the...
We've got the image here. Yeah.
Okay,
here
so
we go. We'll get it on the stream.
Right. So this entire area is made up of 40 countries that include India, China, Indonesia, going down south to include Australia as well. And of course, Korea is also within this region. Yeah.
Wow, Japan's there. Well, with big population powerhouses like China and India. And then, I went to Bali the other day to meet the listeners. Indonesia often flies under the radar, but it's one of the biggest countries in the world in terms of population as well. So having those three, that really contributes to this being a powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the world's biggest economies also here too.
Yeah, China, I think, is fast catching up with the US. So one day, who knows, it might account for much more than just 60%.
Yeah.
So in terms of this area, it's one of the fastest growing, and he said one of the most vibrant in the world.
Yeah, right. And I, again, by no means am anywhere near an expert on politics and economy. But from sitting in on this forum, what I realized was that right now in the current state of global economy, when we're talking about global economic power, it's kind of all eyes on the Indo-Pacific at this time. And it's really quickly becoming the global center of economic power. And it's like you mentioned, and it was mentioned over and over again, that it is the fastest growing region in the world.
Yeah, I guess a lot of Western, more traditional powers are a little bit concerned as well that their power might be on the wane due to countries like increasing influence in this region. But it's just the way, unfortunately, for those countries, the cookie crumbles. There has to be a balance and a flow of power here and there. So there are often lots of different sessions going on at forums like this. What were some of the issues being discussed?
Yeah, so one session that I found interesting was called the ROK's Indo-Pacific Strategy for Denuclearization, Peace, and Prosperity of the Korean Peninsula. Long name, but basically talking about the issue that we have here between South and North. It's a very real issue that we deal with really on it every day on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yeah. And then another major issue that impacts this area is the tension between the U.S. and China, right? It affects everybody. And they talked about how the Yoon Suk-yeol administration is carrying out what they're calling, this is the official name, the Strategy for a Free, Peaceful, and Prosperous Indo-Pacific Region. And what they do is they tackle challenges related to the promotion of the trilateral cooperation between the us, South Korea, and the U.S. and Japan. And that's been all over the news these days.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of warming of relations between us and Japan after years of maybe no Japan and campaigns like that to not buy Japanese products and whatnot after their boycott of us. But I'm seeing it so much these days in Korea as well as opposite to Japan, Korean culture going that way. Like loads of Japanese films in the cinemas. Like my son is going to watch Pokemon today. And there was another one that he watched recently. There was Slam Dunk, the anime from Japan, and lots more variety shows are going over to Japan and filming. There's one with Chung Jun-ah, and he goes and like eats food at these trendy little places after work, and he dresses up like an office worker. It seems like we're really pushing, like, let's have warm, nice relations with Japan, and obviously with the States as well. This Peace and Prosperity Forum, it seems really important. I'm guessing, maybe a lot of Western countries might not pay too much attention or know too much about it. But in this region, and like you said, with so much of the population, it is going to be crucial moving forwards, keeping a close eye on this. We're back for part 3. Angel is linking up from the Jeju studios to talk about the Jeju-do Island Peace and Prosperity Forum, that took place last week. And we have some inside information here from Denny of the Rest Stop, who says, we cannot confirm or deny this could be rumour or hearsay, but I trust Denny. One time, Ban Ki-moon sort of calmly got angry with me when I took a ride in his private elevator before he was UN Secretary General. What a story! Where was this private elevator? Who has a private elevator? I mean, we've got 4 elevators at Arirang, maybe 5 if you count the cargo one. One of them should be my private elevator, I feel, but it's not that way at all. Wow, that's an interesting story. Is he still your bias, Angel?
Sure, yes. I mean, I can see why he would get angry. Yeah, if it's his private.
Yeah, Denny, what is riff-raff like you doing in his elevator? I'd get angry with you, to be honest, yeah. Benny from the Philippines says, for my country, since we're also part of the Indo-Pacific thingy, is what he calls it, area I think is more accurate, our initiative is also peace in the country. Yeah, I think we really do take it for granted because many of the big Western countries haven't had war on their land for generations, right? So we think, of course it's peace. It's always peace. But some countries are more close, on a knife edge sometimes. And it takes effort to keep it that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this year, the key themes addressed obviously peace on the Korean Peninsula, but it also addressed human rights issues, specifically in the Indo-Pacific region. And they had forums that opened young voices talking about sustainable peace and prosperity, not just like peace for now, but for generations to come. And also, they discussed a roadmap for carbon neutrality by the year 2050.
Yeah, that's also being pushed by many countries on a kind of global scale, right?
Yeah, and I believe Jeju's the goal here is 2030. I mean, we're really cutting it close. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we can hit the mark.
Stop buying that fast fashion. Those Yale t-shirts are ruining the goal.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I was just so hot.
You're going to have to wear that for the rest of your life to make it worth it, okay?
Yeah, okay.
This forum has also had in the past some even bigger hitters than Ban Ki-moon.
Yeah. So in the past, we've had some really, really important people, really influential people give speeches and participate, whether it was in person or via like live stream, to discuss current day issues. In the past, they've had U.S. President Bill Clinton, which was a big deal.
Wow.
And then they've, like way back in the day, they had President of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was seen as a guy that got peace between the USSR and the West. So that's amazing. A real kind of poster figure, I suppose, for the peace theme of this forum.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was a Nobel laureate. I think so, yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. Like the Peace Prize, right?
Yes.
And so this year, apart from Ban Ki-moon, did they have any other big names?
Yeah, they had the Prime Minister of South Korea, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. He was here.
Ooh,
yeah,
wow.
the governor of Jeju, obviously, he was also present and he made a speech as well. But it was also a real pleasure to sit in for a speech by President Jose Ramos Horta, who is the president of Timor-Leste.
Oh, wow. And so our third video will be of his speech?
Yes. He also happens to be a Nobel laureate. So it was just all around really, really cool to listen to him speak, listen to everyone speak. But in this next video, in our third video, we're going to hear a snippet of President Jose Ramos Horta's passionate speech about peace and prosperity in this region and the world.
We know that so many victimized families and communities with deep scars of war and the violence in their body, and how the word reconciliation and forgiveness can be offensive. The strength and motivation to reconcile with former enemies and forgive has to be found within ourselves, and only wise and inspirational leaders can help heal the wounds of the soul, inspire and help communities to free themselves from the shackles of conflict and anger.
Oh, that's very deep and meaningful, isn't it? We've got to find that forgiveness in ourselves to forgive our enemies and whatnot. I'm not familiar with the situation in Timor-Leste and President Jose Ramos Horta. What did he do?
So he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1996 for the work he was doing advocating for peace in his country. If you're of my generation, which is, I'm in my 40s now, but
very young.
Yeah, still young in heart. But like in the 90s, early 2000s, you saw Timor-Leste in the news a lot for all the stuff that was going on there. But he was one of the first leaders of the resistance of the Indonesian occupation of Timor-Leste. And that's kind of when everything erupted and things got really, really violent. But he spent a lot of time in his country advocating for peace and trying to figure things out. I believe he was on the pacifist end, so he did not take up arms himself. But then he saw the importance of going outside of the country to bring attention and awareness to what was going on there. So he spent 2 decades traveling around the world, pleading for the cause of his country, asking for help and asking for attention. Some of his most noteworthy speeches were made at the UN. He cracked a joke saying how it was really nice to see Ban Ki-moon again because who was his former boss twice, so
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I guess there's that connection there. But he eventually began to champion the importance of dialogue between Timor-Leste and Indonesia for peace. In 1992, he presented a peace plan to Indonesian government, which eventually laid the framework for their withdrawal from Timor-Leste. But fast forward 9 years to 2001, finally, that's when the peace objectives of that peace treaty that he presented were finally attained. So it's just really, really, really cool.
Wow, he was the leader or one of the big forces behind that happening. Of
Yes,
course,
yes.
yeah, dialogue is the best way. When you don't talk, that's when it can erupt into violence because people are like, then what other options do we have left?
What's Up in Jeju is supported by JDC, which is creating a free international city that resembles nature, embraces the future, and reaches the world.
Arirang Radio.